On October 23, 1868, Japan officially entered the Meiji era, and shortly after, the country rose to 20th century imperial status. This tumultuous period saw Japan's meteoric rise in both territorial size and modernity, and its embroilment in no fewer than 6 armed conflicts. Coinciding with both these events was the development of a new modern firearm for Japan to fight its modern conflicts, the Type 30. The Type 30 was a bolt-action repeating rifle chambered in 6.5 by 50 Arisaka. The new rifle cut its proverbial teeth in combat during the Russo-Japanese War, which saw a naval-borne Japanese force of over 1 million seize control of Port Arthur in Manchuria from the Russian Pacific Fleet. The surprise attack began the modern Japanese Empire's rise to power and established Japanese territories in Korea. However, the victory was a Pyrrhic one that outlined many of the shortcomings of Japan's military equipment. In particular, the Type 30 rifle was found to be unsafe and unreliable, with multiple reports of bursting cartridges and malfunctions. This led to the refinement of the rifle by famed Japanese arms maker Major Kijiro Nambu. Nambu successfully simplified the design to the extent that he reduced the bolt's number of parts by 50% and changed the design so that disassembly no longer required tools. This improved design is the Type 38 rifle. The Type 38 rifle is a heavily Mauser-influenced 6.5 caliber bolt-action repeating rifle that feeds from a 5-round internal magazine. The magazines can be loaded by hand or with stripper clips. And as a side note, Swedish Mauser clips work 100% and are vastly cheaper than authentic Japanese ones. Now, I bought this rifle after suddenly developing an interest in Japanese small arms from playing entirely too much Enlisted. Now, judge me all you want, but I would be willing to bet a big chunk of people who bought the original ACR did so after playing Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. Regardless, the in-game version of the gun always piqued my interest because of its minuscule sights and exceptionally light recoil impulse. I figured this was just another case of a game developer putting gameplay and balance ahead of realism. But I was totally wrong. The 6.5mm cartridge used by the Type 38 is often considered its Achilles heel, because it is so anemic compared to the 2 most prolific rifle cartridges of World War II, 7.92 by 57 Mauser and 30-06. Both of these rounds were developed to win the previous war, one that military thinkers believed would consist of expert marksmen taking 500-yard shots at one another. The reality of mechanized warfare was very different, and the Type 38's soft shooting nature made it an excellent option for close quarters fighting and jungle warfare, especially given Japan's colonial ambitions at the time of its development and the nations that Japan was likely to encounter. In fact, the round was so popular that the Soviets ended up chambering their Fedorov automatic rifles in it due to its relative controllability in full auto. Now, in Enlisted, Russian soldiers are apparently on steroids or can deadlift 1,000 pounds because the gun has next to zero recoil in their hands. But let's talk about the gun's features for a moment. The Type 38 sports a massive 31-inch barrel and an overall length of 50.2 inches. And despite weighing in at 9.25 pounds, it feels very light due to its excellent balance. The Japanese rifle features post and notch iron sights with the front sight adjustable for windage and the rear for elevation. The rear sight is actually a folding type that allows a soldier to provide volley fire or indirect fire at extreme ranges, with the maximum range setting at a whopping 2,400 meters or just under a mile and a half. Now, fun fact, if we assume a perfect ballistic coefficient and no wind drag, it would take the round over 3 seconds to reach a target at that distance. But how does the gun actually compare to the in-game model? Well, other than the lack of adjustable sights, the gun's digital facsimile in Enlisted is very accurate. The gun is potent enough to take down enemy soldiers with a single center mass hit, and they nailed the relatively slow muzzle velocity of 2,500 feet per second, making it difficult to hit moving targets at range. The Type 38 is one of my favorite World War II rifles, both in the game and in real life. The extremely soft recoil and its smooth action make follow-up shots vastly easier than with either the Springfield or the Mauser. The only real downside to the gun is the cost of ownership. While the rifles themselves aren't terribly expensive compared to Mausers or Springfields or the M1 Garand, the ammunition is absurdly pricey. At the time of this video, ammo can't be found for less than $3.50 a pop. So if you're dead set on owning one of these and shooting an Arisaka, shooters should probably invest in a reloading setup and start saving brass now. So here's my review on the gun, both in the game and in real life. Is it worth owning in real life? Absolutely. If you've always wanted to have a Japanese rifle and you want something that is extremely easy to handle and shoot and has very little recoil, there are few guns, with the possible exception of the Carcano, that can really compete with the Type 38. It's also noteworthy for the fact that it's a World War I/World War II and technically Korea rifle that, for the cost of the gun, is pretty affordable. Now, as far as an enlisted, at lower BRs when playing as Japan, it's an excellent choice that's, fairly inexpensive. The gun, like I said before, it can down enemy targets with a single center mass hit, but again, at moving targets at distance, it's a pretty tricky rifle to handle. Overall, if you've always wanted to have a World War II gun from the Pacific Theater, there are few that are as affordable as the Type 38, and even fewer that are soft shooting and easy to handle. Anyway, for Burst Review, I'm Jim Grant. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more Burst Reviews.